And welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Right now, very happy to welcome Mohammed Najem and Nora Neus to the show. Nora is a CNN producer. Mohammed has a remarkable story. He's a boy caught in the war in Syria, and together they've come out with a new book, a graphic memoir, Mohammed Najem, War Reporter, How One Boy Put the Spotlight on Syria. It's for children, but adults would enjoy it too. Mohammed and Nora, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So, Mohammed, let's start with you. Share with people, though, I know you're only 8, but what was life before the war like? Can you share a little of that?
Well, exactly. Before the war was everything like normal, like as a child, like living a happy life. It was simple. And I was facing some struggle because my family, it was not that much like having money. So we was finding some struggle on our way. But anyway, we was happy, like together, having like, we are kind of 4 brothers and 2 sisters. So it was amazing life. Like, no, before the war, we didn't have 2 children. Anyway, but like we was having a wonderful life. My father was working, and also my brother was helping him. So the other was studying. So it was normal life. I was like have a dream to be a football player before the war.
Football player?
A football player, exactly. Like I was supporting Messi till it's changed after the war and become supporting Cristiano. So all of this was like a normal child, like playing football, playing basketball, like going to school. Like it was amazing life. Till the war it became in 2011. So everything changed. That's all.
And what town were you in when you were growing up? Where were you?
Like I was in Eastern Ghouta.
What, I'm sorry?
Like I was in Eastern Ghouta at that time.
In Eastern Ghouta, it's a suburb of Damascus.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And I've always wanted to visit Damascus because Salahuddin is buried there, and I'm named after Salahuddin. So I wanted to go see. My name is really Dean. My father wanted Salahuddin, but my mom's American. It's like, no, I'm not having Salahuddin. My father's Abu Palestinian. My father's Palestinian. So you started making videos when the war began in 2000, not right away, but in 2000, when you were 8 years old, 2011, the war begins there. And tell people a little bit how the beginning were and how your life changed immediately when the war began.
Well, at 2011, when the war started, we become like not living well in our homes because it was kind of bullet and kind of violence around us. So the soldier was coming into a city and taking cues from the houses and get it to the military. So my brother was running away from this because he didn't want to go to military at that time, and it was a lot of dangerous. So we was sitting in a shelter at that time at the beginning of the war. It was kind of terrified. We wasn't used to hear that bullets and missiles and whatever. So it was scary at that time. I get out of school. I wasn't like able to go to school at that time. And sooner or later, the war become like more dangerous at that time, and we were staying all that day like in a shelter. And it was kind of normal, like the soldiers not was like kind of violent, so it was like 1 people. I don't know what's up get up to change all this, and it was horrible.
So, and then at some point you make videos documenting this. And Nora, so I want to bring you into the conversation here. You know, I understand that you saw some of the videos that Mohammed was making. Is that when you first came into contact with him and got to know him?
Yeah, I still remember the first time that I saw one of Muhammad's videos. He was standing on a rooftop in this first video that I saw while the bombs were falling behind him, and he was looking right at the camera and reporting on what was happening behind him. And he was, I think in that video, probably about 13 years old. And I remember thinking, one, this is amazing reporting, and he's showing what's happening inside rebel-held Syria. So it was hard to get reporters in from CNN, where I work, from other organizations. But two, that this kid was on the roof during a bombing raid, and he was doing what it took to get the story. And I just was so impressed, and we started talking from there.
And so, Mohammed, when you first started making the videos that you were posting on social media, what was your hope by making these?
Well, it was kind of just funny, like funny make some videos and between my friends and documenting them. So it wasn't like being like a kind of job or whatever. So as soon as I see like my videos is getting up and people start like it and start like getting some help from people, like I look at myself and I say like that's wonderful. Like I'm still like a kind of child. Like I become doing good thing to the world. I start helping my people. So at that time I get like kind of a goal that I must help people, even if this kind of small videos, whatever. So I like that. I like that. So I started doing this like kind of out of love of me.
And so, and you were, so that my sense was that at some point it went from fun to saying like, I can help my people by getting the story out there to the world. And that's where Nora comes in. So now, Nora, you see this, and then how is this amplified on American TV on CNN?
I was a producer. I would sometimes do my own stories, my own little like web stories. And that's how this started. This was a small web story that I wrote in my spare time, and I edited together a little compilation report on my laptop when I wasn't doing my real job. And the story posted and completely went viral. And it was this incredible response, I think largely to Muhammad and to Muhammad as a person and his bravery. I was able to interview him for that video. And so you could see his actual answers to some of these questions. And it was also just about his daily life in Syria. I think so often we have this big picture view of war-torn Syria, and we don't get those human stories in the media as often. And I think that's something that, especially getting to know Muhammad's story so much more and getting to know his siblings so much, like life also goes on, even when you're down in the shelter and there's bombs overhead, like normal life is still happening. And that's how Muhammad grew up.
It's remarkable. I'm chatting with Muhammad Najem and Nora Neus. So Muhammad, as your videos got more known, I see in the book you talked about one place you were concerned that Assad's people, he's the leader of Syria, would see on social media what you're posting, and that you feared maybe retribution or attacks by the Assad regime. What can you share about that? Did that happen?
Well, actually, it was terrified at that time documenting crimes of Assad regime without getting any trouble from them. So, like my brother was trying to protect me even when I was going to Idlib, to North Syria. Like I was scared of the soldiers. So
Sure.
mostly in the time in the Syria, I was afraid to be like to kill me at that time, send people to kill me because I was like showing their crime to the world. So it was some scary of doing this. So I was kindly spend my time in home in the town. So again, I don't get out. My parents, like my father, like and mother, like didn't allow to me to get out of the home a lot of time because of that, because of my job. But most of the time, like was telling my brother, like let him stop of doing this because like it's kind of like he's still a boy, so it's kind of dangerous for him doing kind of thing. But like I was like doing it as a funny. I wasn't like consider all of the dangers. So my brother was supporting me to do this, and like most of the time telling me like help your people, do whatever you can, don't be afraid of your life, like whatever is your people, and if you like you have to sacrifice in something. Your father sacrificed for your country and your people, and you have to, and all of us we have to do sacrifice for something, even it was our life, but our people is more important.
I could understand. I mean, the footage from Syria, and I had people on during the fighting over the years, people who helped refugees who had been there. Horrific, horrific. So, Nora, near the end of the book, you share how you had feelings of guilt about this story getting on CNN and perhaps the Assad regime targeting Mohammed's family. Could you share a little more about that, please?
Yeah, and I think it's something that we always as journalists grapple with, and there are always consequences to your reporting. But in this case, it felt like kind of outsized consequences. Essentially, and this is detailed in the book, but as Muhammad's stature grew and he became more and more famous while he was still in Syria, there was more and more intense focus on him and his family and his neighborhood. And we were careful in our CNN piece never to show his street and where he lived, but it was clear what neighborhood and what town he was in, at least to the Assad regime, if you were trying to triangulate where he was. And there, a couple days after the article posted, there was a Russian-backed airstrike in Muhammad's neighborhood that
it's where it was
destroyed.
name targeted, like it's being targeted, my friend.
Yeah, and it targeted Muhammad's area. And so you never know exactly what is the final straw for some of these attacks. But his uncle was killed, and I definitely struggled with and still think about kind of the guilt aspect of the consequences of your reporting. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, as Muhammad and I have gotten to know each other better and better, I finally kind of got up the courage to ask him and his family about, and if they ever regretted my story originally. And something that they have been incredibly gracious, and I think you and your brother and your sister Muhammad have said different things, but on one hand, that I think your videos would have gone viral no matter what, whether that was me or someone else. You are so talented in your own right and your work would have gone viral and you would have succeeded even without me. And I think also that because of that, it increased your stature, and you have done so much incredible work to bring awareness to not only Syria, but especially Syrian children, which I know you are so passionate about. And then finally, just I think you and your whole family have said, whatever Allah's will is what will happen. And some of this is just beyond us.
True. I mean, it's, the idea of inshallah, like, God willing, and that whatever the plan is. But no, I can only imagine the balancing, because if you don't get the story out, the world doesn't see how horrific the Assad regime is treating the people of Syria. I mean, maybe you save lives by changing public opinion here. But then the very real potential backlash, we don't know if it's true or not, is that there could be a bombing directed at Muhammad's family. So, Muhammad, as you talk about in your book, then you go sort of within Syria, you move essentially like a refugee within your country, but now you're in Turkey. So share to people, how did you get to Turkey, and what was your family's decision to say, we're leaving Syria, we're going to another land?
Mm-hmm. Well, at the first time, it started when I have to move from Eastern Ghouta to North Syria, to Idlib. We have, it's forced to leave my town because of Assad regime and Russia. So after that, when we left our city, it was kind of hard for us. We wasn't find a life in the north of Syria, and I wasn't able to go to school even. So at that time, we planned to move out to Syria and to continue our job and studying. I wouldn't have time at that time because of all the bombing. Even in North Syria, it was school. It was targeted by war plans. So it was scary at that time. So I have to continue my education. I have to do much more things than documenting actions what's happening. I have to continue my study. And also my brother stopped from school long time ago. So all of us decided to move to Turkey. And because of my brother, a journalist, he have a kind of contract with his channel to take him and his family to Turkey. So I was one of them.
How was life in Turkey? That they don't speak Arabic. People might not know that. And I know that when I read you were not learning Turkish. I'm not sure if you are now or not. It's a vastly different language. People think Turkey's Arabs. I'm like, no, they're not Arabs. They're Turkish. They're their own people. and I don't know if we share any words, but what's life like for you on a day-to-day basis living in Turkey and for other Syrian refugees there? What can you share?
Mhm. Well, I don't want to talk much about Turkey, but life here is difficult. It's hard to live here. I'm planning actually to move because it's not kind of life I've imagined like to be like. But anyway, it's better than Syria. But like kind of it's not be dealing like deal with people well because of kind of some people are racist. So I can find some trouble and struggle
Some
here.
people are racist. You say some of the Turks are racist too.
Exactly.
Look, there's racism all over. You're not, look in America. I live in America. I mean,
Mhm.
we have tons of racism. We export it. But yeah, there's racism all over. I was going to ask you, are the Turkish people accepting of the Syrian refugees? But I'm getting the sense, are some or are none?
Well, I think you have to read more about that on the internet. I cannot share like kind of this because of my name. I'm living here. Because if I
Right.
said anything terrible, I'll be next day I'll be in Syria. So anyway, like if you
But
understand me, so anyway, like it's kind of good life. It's better than Syria, better than being under the muscles. I wasn't able to go for schools. I applied once, but I didn't get accepted. So I continue learning English. Because of that, I can speak with you like kind of good.
no, your English is so much better than my Arabic. So I mean, I have no excuse. I should be able to speak Arabic, and I don't. So Nora, you went to Turkey. What was it like there for you, and what did you see?
It was incredible to meet Muhammad and his family. When I first started this reporting process, Muhammad was still a minor and was a child. And so I did a lot of my work with his older brother and sister. His older sister is 2 years older than me, and his older brother and I are only 2 months apart. We've gotten very close. And so it felt like visiting old friends, even though we hadn't met in person for the first time. And it was really fun meeting Muhammad in person as well. And lately, we've been talking about what that experience was like for him. And like now, 2 years later, with kind of hindsight, and Muhammad has said, "Oh, I totally didn't believe you that you were actually going to write a book about this. Like I never thought that this book would actually get published. This was a crazy idea." But he humored me enough to tell me a bunch of stories, and then we did sell the book and we worked on it together and wrote it together, and I really want to come back and visit, so that's
Okay.
my next plan.
Or maybe Muhammad comes to America. That's the
That would
next.
be amazing.
That's the next book. We'll say that. But if you're thinking of coming to America, I would try it now with Biden before Trump gets back in. And I'm hoping Trump. I hope Trump never gets back in. But if or anyone like him, and the book is a graphic novel. So I know it's built for children, but it's really for adults as well. To be honest, you learn the story of Muhammad, but you also learn the story of Syria and the heartbreak and what families go through in war. That they're suddenly thrust from a normal family into fleeing bombs and hiding in shelters. Muhammad, I know you're in Turkey now, but can you share about what's going on in Syria? Because it's not getting much coverage in the US media any longer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, actually, kind of channels is not taking actions because it can't become like normal or become like it's not sounds so much excited for the public. Anyway,
Right.
like even like our my people getting boring of this. Like I'm get bored of this. Like 12 years is when it's gonna be end. So they have it right, but anyway, like we have to put the spotlight on Syria because it was never like gonna be end if we didn't stand together to end it together. Anyway, like still now, war plans still bombing areas over there, and kind of being scary to send your children to schools. Most of them they don't send their children to school, even hospital being targeted. So this is still like the same. Nothing changed. Even like Turkey put its hand on like the north of Syria, but nothing's changed. Like we're still being bombed from Assad regime and Russia. Like, but it's better than before because Russia now like going in a fight with Ukraine, so we have some rest. But anyway,
Ah, that's
still.
interesting. It's interesting that they had to maybe pull troops out of armaments out of Syria to go fight in Ukraine.
Well, like I supported Ukraine because like in Syria wouldn't have kind of a help to fight back, but in Ukraine like they're doing so much great work.
I understand. And last thing, at the end of the book, you have a recipe. Can you tell us about why? Tell people what the recipe is for and why you wanted to share that.
This question is gonna be for Nora.
Okay, Nora.
I love the recipe. It is Muhammad's older sister Hiba's recipe for what we know as stuffed grape leaves for a U.S. audience. And Muhammad and I tried to help Hiba make them, and it is so difficult to make. And so Muhammad and I both were trying to compete how to not to break the grape leaves when we were rolling them together. But it's a recipe and a food that comes up a lot in the course of the book, and it's a way that Muhammad's family keeps hold of their heritage and of their past, even as they're moving into a new place.
That's interesting, and I thought it's great. If people want to learn how to make grape leaves, they could try it home. I guess it is. I've never tried to make it, but I understand it's challenging. So again, the book is Muhammad Najem, war reporter: How One Boy Put the Spotlight on Syria, and Muhammad and Nora worked on this together, and it's really remarkable. I hope people take a look. And Muhammad, it's very nice to meet you, and I wish you the best. Inshallah, we'll see you here in New York. Maybe hosting on CNN, maybe Nora can help you there, or doing journalism here in America, if that's your dream, or in Europe, wherever it might be. But I wish you the best, and God bless you, and thanks for being on here, and thanks for writing the book.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Okay.